I don't want you to turn your shoulders in your golf swing, or at least think about turning your shoulders. That term has been used for years and years and years, and I've seen it give so many issues to so many golfers. It's more complicated than that, I'm afraid. However, in this video, I'm going to keep it really, really simple. So why do I not want you to turn the shoulders? Surely that's a phrase that's been around for years and years and years, and that's what all golfers get told, isn't it? You take a setup and you turn back and you turn through. Well, it can lead to some movements like this. If I took my setup to the golf ball, if the instruction was to turn my shoulders, I would likely make a movement such as this, and then on the forward side of the golf ball, I'd be doing something which is very similar. So a golfer whose sole idea and sole concept is just to turn the shoulders, we can often see movements that sort of look like this, and it's really quite easy to hit top shots like that. So if we don't turn them, what do we do? Well, let's start with the backswing. There's two things that I would love you to focus on the backswing, and these are two faults which I see all too often. The first fault that I see would be one where there's not enough movement in the shoulders. And when there's not enough movement in the shoulders, the hands and the arms do most of the work. And when they do most of the work, two things normally happen. Number one, the club dives inside far too soon. We get that inside flat takeaway. And number two, you get really narrow. Just look at how close my hands are to my right shoulder. And when we get inside and narrow, we then generally get this really flat shoulder turn where you can see how the shoulders don't have a huge amount of angle in them. When we look at the greats of the game, and I say we are going to look at those a little bit later in the video, we generally see really good turn early, and we see a really good angle through the shoulders. So here's a great little exercise I'd love you to do in order to sense and feel that. I've got a 7-iron, I'm going to take my setup, I'm going to place the grip of the club right into my belly button. Left hand is going to go down onto the metal, right hand is going to go lower. I'm going to get myself into posture. Now there's a little bit of flex in my right arm, but I want to basically feel like for the first 2 to 3 feet of this movement away, the club stays in my belly button. And you can see how that's maintained the width early on. The only way I can do that is by basically engaging my turn. If I was to limit what my shoulders do, then I'm going to have to start using my hands and my arms, and we kind of lose that connection here. So the first part of this is, can we get the shoulders engaged really early? And look where the club is. If I had the club in my normal position, nice out in front of me, right arm is nicely extended. The other thing we are able to do from here is start to set that angle through the shoulders. Notice how my lead shoulder is much lower than my trail shoulder. That's so important. One of the traits of golfers who really struggle with their iron play is they get far too flat in the shoulders. It's often due to lack of rotation. So this is a great little way for me to feel like I'm engaged in the upper body early, and I want to be working my lead shoulder more down towards the golf ball. Now once my hands get outside of my thigh, then I can start to use my wrists and my arms to work the club up to the top. But we should start to get a position at the top where I've got good tilt through the shoulders, and from that front view we've got really good rotation. Really good rotation for me is key because it allows you to get that really good arm structure. The last thing we want is underturn, narrow arms, because it's almost impossible to recover from there. So I love that little exercise, club in the belly button. Let's keep it nice and wide, engage the shoulders early on, work the club up to the top, and that's going to get you primed, and we can then talk about transition. Backswing to downswing. To transition, such an important part of the golf swing. When I talk about the different parts of the golf swing, for me, backswing and downswing are there, but there's a transition where those two blend together. And for me, it's one of the most overlooked parts of the golf swing. If it goes wrong in transition, it's almost impossible to recover from it, and you're likely to hit some poor shots. Do the shoulders simply reverse what they did in the backswing? No, they don't. There's a different movement. And I want you to pay specific attention to your lead shoulder. As I said a couple of times, at the end of the video, I'm going to show you some really great golfers who make this move exceptionally well. It's going to help you really visualize it. But I want you to use the end of my golf club as a reference for my lead shoulder. And as we make this good move back, notice how the grip end of my golf club has obviously gone lower than where it was at the start. The biggest fault that I see in transition is the lead shoulder moving upwards far too soon. What that will do is it will put too much tilt through the shoulders. It will very often, if not always, push you backwards with your weight. So what we see is often a pretty good wind up, lead shoulder pops up, head gets shoved backwards, weight is on this foot, and I'm sure you know that if you're trying to hit an iron club off the ground and your weight's on your back foot, you're going to have a hell of a hard time trying to make good contact. You're likely going to hit it heavy, thin, and if you do make good contact, your 7-iron is going to look like a pitching wedge. So what do the great golfers do? Well, they move their shoulder forward and down. So as I go back, let's get my reference point here. I want you to keep your eye on that grip. I'm going to slightly exaggerate it, but I want you to be moving that grip forwards and down. Forwards and down. This little movement here is absolutely key for putting pressure through that lead side. What it also does, it also slightly lowers your swing arc or your swing circle. Why is that important? Well, where should our low point be? It should be underground and it should be target side of the ball. This is a key move which allows you to do that. If that shoulder pops up too soon, that basically takes your circle and pushes it back. You want that first move in transition to be taking your circle and moving it forwards and down. So in transition, this forwards and down feeling is great. How do you get that? Well, take a golf ball. You're going to place it under your left foot. And this is basically what you're going to try and feel you push into. Because if my shoulder is going to move sort of forward and down, then I've got to be using the feet and the pressure through my feet to enable that to happen. So as I make this little transition move, I'm feeling like I'm pushing into that golf ball. So now we come on to impact. What are you going to do for impact? Well, you want to strike it well. You want to take a divot. So you're going to stay down on the golf ball. You're going to keep your shoulder down. You're going to make sure you drive the club into the ground. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Really common. It would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? We're trying to not top it. We're trying to compress it. So it would make sense that we kind of stay down. That's the opposite to what that shoulder should be doing. And we, through transition and now into impact, we are really looking at this lead shoulder. But obviously, if this shoulder moves correctly, this one's going to move the same way. So what should that shoulder be doing? It should be going up and back. So again, we're going to use the grip of my golf club as a reference. We've got our transition move where it's forward and down. Then through impact, you have to take that shoulder and you have to rip it up and back. Up and back. It's that gives me the space and the opportunity to get some structure in the arms. If you try and stay down on the golf ball, lead shoulder specifically, what's going to happen is you're going to run out of room and you're going to have absolutely no chance of delivering the club well. You're going to get something that looks a little bit like this. Lead shoulder was absolutely in the way, so my lead arm had to buckle. It had no other option. You might be separating the arms, you might be buckling the arms, your club might be releasing early. You're going to do something so the club doesn't clatter into the ground and snap the club shaft. If you don't want that to happen, you've got to get the lead shoulder moving up and around and back. Up, back, and around. Up, back, and around. So if I was to take a setup with a 7-iron, load into my lead side and hit a little shot out there that's going to go maybe some 70, 80 yards, just pay attention to this lead shoulder through the impact area. Up, back, and around. Look at where it's finished versus where it started. Now, I actually didn't strike that particularly well. We won't cut that, but I'm going to hit another one. I want to show you that again. Load left, watch this lead shoulder, up, back, and around. Much better strike on that occasion. Up, back, and around. It's that that's allowed me to keep my arms extended. It's allowed me to get this beautiful position here where I'm forward with my weight, I'm rotating my body, and I'm extended through my spine. Now, if you can get pretty close to those three movements, get the shoulders moving well in the backswing, get the transition, and then pull that shoulder up and back and around through impact, you're going to be pretty close to a really good golf swing. But don't take my word for it. Let's have a look at some of the greats of the game and what they do.
So we've got Tiger Woods on the left, Adam Scott on the right. Obviously both phenomenal golfers, phenomenal golf swings. So what I've done is I've marked how their lead shoulder moves backswing and downswing. The red dots indicate the backswing, the yellow dots the downswing. So if you watch Tiger first, you're going to see his shoulder follow those red dots. And then in transition, just look at this move he makes. Just look how significant and pronounced that transition move is, with his lead shoulder moving down towards the ground and towards the target. So when he gets to this point in his downswing, his lead shoulder is in a very different position when we compare it to the backswing. So you can see that yellow arrow that I've indicated there, it's forward and down. Then he gets into delivery, at which point he pulls that shoulder back, up and around before he goes into his follow through. So what do we see with Adam Scott? Very, very similar. It's not as pronounced, the movements aren't as exaggerated, but they're still present. So left shoulder, red dots are moving with that, gets to the top, shoulder moves forwards and down, so those yellow dots are more forward and lower than they were on the way back. And again, as he gets to delivery, he starts to pull it back up and around. Such an important move to have in your golf swing. If you don't move your shoulders like this, you're going to really struggle to strike your iron. So I'd really encourage you to work on this movement. Forward, down, pull it up on the way back. It's massively going to help with your ball striking. You're probably going to start to strike it better than you've ever struck those irons before.